Hi everyone, this is Sean Ismail from the Cloud Ranger, and you're viewing the Microsoft Azure training. Today is the part 6 of Azure Virtual Machines, and I'm going to talk about VM agent and extensions and how this will be very beneficial for you when you're scripting or building virtual machines. Okay, so let's get started. This is going to be a very hands-on demo intensive session, not really a lot of things that are on the slides. So let's get started with VM agents. VM agents, something we have already looked into while we were building virtual machines from the management portal, but we may have ignored or you may not have paid so much attention to what it was. But anyways, what it does is that it's a lightweight process that's used to install, configure, manage, run, and remove extensions. I'll get to what extensions is in a bit, but that's what VM agent does. It forms as the conduit from where extensions are deployed, or it can be used for doing various things that can be done on an extension. Um, the other thing I want to let you know is that when you are building a virtual machine on Azure from the management portal, as you can see in the image over here, that it gives you that option to install the VM agent right away. When you're doing this with PowerShell as well, the agent will be installed for you by default. There is a way or there's a switch you can have which will make the PowerShell script not install the VM agent if you specify it to. However, by default, it is installed. Now, the next thing I want to mention is that in our previous session, when we talked about taking an image from your on-premise and putting that to Azure or migrating that to Azure, there is actually a little install file that you can install on the VM later on to install the virtual machine agent on your custom VMs if you really want to later on. Okay, so that's something you have to remember. But there's not a whole lot that we can do on the agent except installing it, viewing if it's installed or not, and things like that. So I'm not going to spend so much time on this slide. Okay, this is the slide. That's why we are here. VM extensions. This is mostly, or this topic is what we'll be talking about mostly in today's session is VM extensions. So VM extension is something that's basically used to distribute software. Okay, not any software. So I'll get to that in a bit. It's for deployment and configuration management of those software, security and protection, VM operations and management, development, and debugging. So what happens is that you can use these extensions to support those functions that I just mentioned in the slide here. It distributes a piece of software which will augment or make easy some of your management tasks. So if you recall, when we installed a new virtual machine and we RDP'd into it, there was that little screen or those little text on the desktop which would go and tell you what was the virtual machine name, what was the IP address, what was the disk space, and things like that. Well, that was actually a little application that was distributed by an extension to have it installed on the virtual machine for some ease of management. Like, rather than going to all properties, you can just look at that BG info. That's what the extension was called. You can actually see some details about your virtual machine. So that was more of a informational kind of extension, BG info. And then you have several extensions. So for example, you have something from Symantec, which will, using that extension, it will actually go and install the agent for the antivirus or anti-malware on your virtual machine to do certain tasks. Okay, so that's what extension does. It's basically used to distribute some piece of software. Now, Microsoft has some extensions that it has already built in Azure, and then you have third parties who actually go build those extensions for distributing their software, for example, Symantec. And there are extensions that you can custom create as well yourself. What's important to remember here that every virtual machine can have multiple extensions. So you could have multiple extensions used to deploy multiple extensions which will be deployed on your virtual machine to tackle certain kind of task. Let it be monitoring, let it be for your antivirus, let it be for any other management tasks, really. So that's what we're going to spend most of our time on doing hands-on as well. So let's go to my client machine and let's get started on to see how the agent is installed, and to how to verify if agent was installed on your virtual machine. And then we'll deep dive in directly on extensions, and I'll show you what the built-in extensions that Azure provides you and how to look for them. Then we are going to go over installing some of these extensions and a couple of cool extensions to show you what it can do. Okay, so let's go to the client machine. Okay, I'm in my client machine here. I just want to show you what I have done so far. So I have a storage account here, Ranger Store, and I do have a virtual machine, a regular virtual machine, C Ranger 100, that I just created for some demonstration purposes. Otherwise, there's nothing else that's there done on this subscription right now. So anyways, I want to show you about the agent. So let's go click on New from Gallery. This is a basic creation of a virtual machine, nothing fancy here. So you already know what's going on over here. I'll just name it something. I'm not going to really create this machine. I just want to show you that little window where you can go and check how the agent can be installed. Okay, so let's leave everything the way it is over here. This is the screen. Virtual machine configuration. We never really did anything over here. I just went and clicked OK. But if some of you actually have looked into it, you would have seen that it was always checked in here that says install the VM agent. So basically the VM agent is going to be installed from here. If you look at the help, it says the VM agent is used to install and manage extensions to interact with virtual machine. Okay, so ideally, there's no reason you do not want to install the VM agent. In fact, Microsoft on MSDN does mention that if you uncheck this, the part or the process of creating a virtual machine on Azure has some extensions that are by default sent to it, like BGInfo. So it says that your virtual machine can act up or be a little weird while it's being created if you do not check this box. But nothing prevents you from not doing so. I always have it on because I do not know what extensions I might need. Okay, so like I mentioned, there are different kind of extensions for management, for security, for even automation. So you can see some of this built-in extensions that Azure already provides you. So you can have something like open source Puppet and Chef over here. These are for configuration extensions. I'm not going to go over Puppet and Chef. They could be like an entire series on their own just because they are so powerful. But basically, Puppet and Chef, they are open source, enterprise grade configuration management extension. They can do a whole lot. Like System Center, they can just do so much. I'm not going to really touch them in this session, but we are going to touch something called as custom script. So I'll get into details of that later. But you can see security extensions over here, Microsoft Anti-Malware, Symantec Endpoint, Trend Micro. So if you actually check on one of these boxes, what it'll do is while the virtual machine is being created, this piece of software, which essentially installs the antivirus on your VM, will be created and it will be deployed as well with your virtual machine. So that's what extensions do. But for now, we are going to just look at the agent over here. I'm not going to make the virtual machine, so let's get out of here. Okay, I do want to show you, however, a script here. So what you can do is you can pass this commandlet here to get your virtual machine and store it in my VM variable here. Then you can look at the VM's property by myvm.vm.provision_guest. What this will give you is that it will tell you that if your virtual machine actually has the guest agent installed and provisioned, and it says true. So what you need to do is that you need to verify before you do any extension from your scripts that if your agent is actually installed and it's running. If you upload a VHD or migrated a virtual machine to your Azure environment, what you need to do is obviously you'll not have a guest that is provisioned. So you need to go to this link that I have over here, agent download. What this link will do is that it will download the agent software on your virtual machine. So obviously you have to go and go to this link from your virtual machine, download that agent and install it and restart your virtual machine. Once you do that, your provision guest will still show false because you need to set it to true. So I have this commented over here, but this is what you need to run. You need to go and set this property to true to make sure that it's actually enabled or it's provisioned for extension to be using that, right? And then you need to update the virtual machine with update Azure VM commandlet, and that should be good to go. So this part you need to only do if you have migrated a virtual machine and the extension was not there for you. So you downloaded it and extended it. Otherwise, any virtual machine that you have created, you'll always notice that it will always have the agent set as true, the agent property set as true. Okay, so this is how you view that. So there's not a whole lot that is there besides this as far as agent is concerned. This is both for exams and your production environment. So that's all that there is to it to talk about agents here. So moving on to extensions, like I mentioned from here, that how when we were creating those extensions were there, right? So like I mentioned that when your virtual machine initially is being created, agent is installed, and Azure actually goes and puts an extension in a virtual machine as well. So I went and RDP'd into CRanger 100 here, and I just want to show you here, as soon as you logged in, there's this little information screen that's provided here, okay? This is actually not part of Server 2012 R2. It's actually part of an extension or a piece of software called BG Info. Some of you might already be using this on your on-premise. It's quite popular. So when you go to packages and you go to plugins, and you can see this is the extension, or this is the package that was installed for BG Info. So let's go in there, and this part, if you are already using this in on-premise, this will make sense. Okay, so ideally what we would do is we'd go, and I think it is part of sysinternals, you'd go and download BG Info from there. You'll download this package and install it on your virtual machine. I mean, on your on-premise virtual machine, and it will give you this information. Okay, so this is not part of 2012 R2. What Azure did was it took BG Info and it created an extension for you. So what that extension does is that when you are creating virtual machine, this extension goes and puts BG Info on your virtual machine and sets and configures everything up. So as soon as you RDP in, you will see this fine info over here, and it eases your management. So I can quickly look into my internal IP here, external IP, and BG Info has more information that could be put in there. So I'm not going to go into details of what BG Info can or cannot do, but there's a lot of information that you can put there, and it's part of sysinternals, like I mentioned, so you can always go and check out the little piece of application by itself. Okay, so that's what extensions will do for you, that they'll push this software, and that's why they say that extensions are basically nothing but something that distributes software on your behalf, and Azure does that for you while creating virtual machines. Having said that, the important part is that this extension does not necessarily need to be installed or pushed during virtual machine creation. You could have extensions that can be put at any time, and I'm going to go through the demonstration as well. But there are certain times you want the extension to be part of an installation, virtual machine installation process, and like BG Info would be one of those. But then there are things like the Symantec Antivirus, as you noticed, under the security plugins, there was that option where you could go and create or you could push the antivirus while the virtual machine was being created. But obviously, we did not do that, right? So I'm going to just show that to you once again over here. So we did not check any one of these extensions, like for example, Symantec, but if we check that and click on yes, what would happen is as soon as the virtual machine came up and you went and RDP'd into it, you'd see that Symantec Endpoint Protection Antivirus would actually be installed for you. Ideally, when you are doing any deployment, you probably want to do them right away because you know that you are going to do it. But if you do not know, the Symantec Endpoint Protection can be installed later on, and that's what we'll see. So some of them are mentioned, or some of them are already put in there while you're creating virtual machine, just like we saw from the gallery. And you can do the same from PowerShell as well. But how do you exactly see all the extensions that are part of Azure that are available for you, which are probably not on the management portal? So there are commandlets to do that. And this is the commandlet that you're going to use. get Azure VM available extension. So it will show you all available extensions that are there for you on Azure. And it has a lot of properties, but we're going to just check the extension name and publisher. And just to make it a little bit easier to view, we'll just out the grid view here, okay? So let's go ahead and run this. And what will happen is it will bring this grid view, and you can see the extension name and the publishers that are part of Azure, okay? So we know this is the BG info. BG info is the one that's installed when your virtual machine is being provisioned, just to give you that little management ease kind of thing to view some information about your virtual machine. But then there are other ones as well. This is the Symantec Endpoint Protection that was already there, the one I kept talking about. And as you can see, there's one for McAfee. There's a bunch of them. Um, there's some debuggers here. Um, IS anti-malware, custom agent, diagnostic, custom script extension. I'll be actually showing you the VM access agent. So these are a bunch of extensions that are provided by Microsoft out of the box for you, and you can choose to install them or not. And you can see the publisher. Some of the publishers are Microsoft. Obviously, let me sort that. You can see some of them are Microsoft, different Microsoft teams who have done things. But then there are third party as well, and you can create and register your extension the way you build it. So this is a pretty neat commandlet to actually see what are the extensions that are there. Okay, and then you might wonder that, okay, I created a virtual machine, I did not put all these extensions, and I have put some extensions on them, so how do I view that? So this is the next commandlet. So what you're doing is you're getting the virtual machine. This is stuff you already know. The commandlet here to remember is get Azure VM extension, and you put in the VM in there, and you're looking at the extension name and publisher. So our virtual machine, we have not really put any extensions, the one we just created here. So we are going to just view what was there anyways, okay? So let's run this and see. Well, as you can see, one of the extensions that was there on our virtual machine is BGInfo. And we know BGInfo is there because, we can see this and we know that's what BGInfo is. And the other place to look at what extensions are there is inside the packages folder. If you go to the packages folder, you'll be able to see, the extensions that are there. And you can see BGInfo is there. So that's done by default. And this is a very neat commandlet to actually check what are the extensions that are there. And you can also see the versions and everything like that. Okay. So this is a very handy commandlet. So how do you, install these extensions? Obviously, management portal only give you so many, and once the virtual machine is there created, I do not know how to push an agent on there. Push an extension on there. So the only way you can do that is from PowerShell, and I'll show you how to, or the commandlets that are used for installing extensions to a virtual machine or any extension to a virtual machine. And there's a reason I say any extension, because as you'll notice that there are some extensions, the ones that Azure already provides you, they already have built-in commandlets to install them. Yeah, it's a little weird. So some extensions, you have to install them using the standard extension installation commandlets. And then there are certain extensions that are there, which you already will find the commandlets included in your Azure subscription that are already there. So I'll go through both. So the first one I want to go through is actually installing or using the commandlets to install any extension. Okay. So I have given you the example of Symantec, and that's what we are going to do. We are going to install the Symantec Endpoint Protection. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll first get the virtual machine, which is going to my VM, and I'm going to go and get all the available extensions. This is similar to this commandlet here, but I'm going to choose the publisher as Symantec and the extension name here. So I'm choosing a particular extension object, and I'm going to install. I'm going to put that in agent. I just call that agent. And what we are going to do is we are going to set the VM extension. So set Azure VM extension, and we are going to take this one. Oops, there's a gap here. And what we are going to do is we're going to say that this Symantec agent is something that we are going to install in the VM, my VM. So the C Ranger VM 100, and we are going to update that. Okay, so when we ran this commandlet over here, we could see that it only had BG info. Okay, but after we are done installing this, when we run this commandlet, we should also see Symantec that's installed. And we're going to verify that from our RDP into the session, and we are going to check that as well. So do remember that the commandlet over here is set as your VM extension that's used to actually install the agent. And I'm going to show you over here, there's nothing installed here. There's no antivirus. Usually you have that little agent icon that shows up over here. Okay, so let's go and run this commandlet real quick. Wow, that gave an error. Let me see what happened here. Oh, I see my mistake. The cloud service name is CRanger 100 as well, not VM. That should do it. Let's try running this again. Looks like it's working. It takes a little bit of time because, as you can understand, what it is doing in the back end is actually it's installing that piece of software which will actually install the Symantec endpoint protection on the virtual machine CRanger 100. That's this virtual machine here. So I'm going to pause and come back once this task is completed. Okay, it shows the task has succeeded. It took a few seconds, but let's go over here, run and see what's going on. Let me refresh this screen real quick. Still shows running. Let me go to my virtual machine and see what will happen here. Alrighty, as you can see, it went and pushed this extension there. So we only had BG info before, but now we have the endpoint protection as well. So it is doing something. This is the entire script and all the runtime to actually go and install that endpoint. But I can see it has not installed the endpoint here because a little shield icon shows up here once that completely installed. So it's probably still provisioning that right now. However, having said that, let's come over here, clear the screen, and let's run this available extensions here from my virtual machine. Wow, as you can see, it went and installed the Symantec Endpoint Protection extension for me. The version is 12.1, and it's now part of my virtual machine. Okay, so I'm going to pause this till this actually shows up here to show you that extension. But by all means, you can see that this actually has gone and pushed all the information on the virtual machine to go and install that. And that's what extensions do. And this is how you'll have different extensions. Some extensions are for your security, like the one we are installing from Symantec. There are extensions which are for other management stuff, like we saw for BG Info. Then you can play with all those extensions there and figure out how to install them and run them for various reasons. Okay, so let that happen over here. Meanwhile, I'm going to show you one more pretty cool and handy extension that you can install. So when I come here in my available extensions, let me run this. And I'm going to show you one more extension from here. That is the VM Access. Where did it go? VM Access agent over here. This is a built-in extension that's from Microsoft. As you can see, that's the publisher. I'm going to show you what VM Access agent can do. So let's go here. I do have a commandlet here. What VM Access extension does is it does several things that's related to you accessing your virtual machine. One of the cool extension work that is done is that if you do RDP to your virtual machine, as you might see that there's no other way to connect to your virtual machine except RDP. So it's not like Hyper-V or VMware where even if your network is not working or something is not working, you can go to your console and you can, log into your virtual machine and fix things up. So if your only option is RDP to your virtual machine, what happens if somehow you mess that up? Let's actually mess that up. We see that we are here at this virtual machine, the one we are working on. And by the way, as you can see, it went and installed the Symantec Endpoint protection here. Okay, the one we were working on. It took about a couple of minutes, right, from the whole thing we did. So that's that. So the thing that I was talking about is that this is we are RDPing to cranger 100.cloudapp.net, right? Let's go ahead and mess up the RDP. The best way to mess up your RDP is what? You can come here and inadvertently like go and on your remote desktop system property. So by the way, this is what I clicked, the remote desktop, and it's enabled, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and click on that enabled here, and I'm going to disable it. So let's go and click on apply, and I am pretty sure I lost access. There's nothing else I can do. Yep, lost access. So let's close that. So I lost my only way to get into this virtual machine. Actually, not entirely true. I still have my PowerShell, right? You remember that endpoints thingy? That will be one way. You're absolutely right if that's what you thought about, that hey, if I lose access, I can use the endpoint. And I mean, I lost my RDP, but I still have my PowerShell. So yes, that's one way you can do it. You can actually use PowerShell to get into your virtual machine from your Azure console, and you can probably go and change that property with some PowerShell commandlet. Okay, that's one very neat way to deal with that. And I have gone through one of my previous sessions on how to actually access your virtual machine through PowerShell. So go and review that if you are all of a sudden thinking about, oh my God, what happens if I really mess up with this RDP? There's another cool way, and that is using this extension, VM Access extension. The way VM Access extension works is you take the VM property, like the object here, cranger 100, and what you do is you just run this commandlet, set as your VM extension with the VM and update it, and no other parameters in there. This is also a perfect example of one of those extensions which has built-in commandlets. Okay, for example, when we did the Symantec, we did not have any built-in commandlet here. We just went and ran that set as your VM extension and put the Symantec here, and that was good to go. Okay, with this extension, we are not going to install that extension. What this commandlet does, or similar commandlets for several built-in extensions will do, is that it will go and install that extension for you and then run the command for you. So I'm not going to go install the VM access extension using this similar method. Okay, I'm going to just run this command to fix things up. And what as Microsoft did is it went and created built-in extension commandlets for you for their extensions. Okay, and let's actually see some of this. There's a cool command here, commandlet here called Git Command. And I'm going to get any command with access extension in there. Okay, so this is how you do access extension. If I can spell it correctly, access. I'm all messed up here. And you can see that Microsoft went and created a bunch of commandlets associated with this extension. Get as your VM extension, remove the VM access extension, set is the one we are using over here. So as you can see, what Microsoft did is Microsoft made this easy for us to use this extension rather than manually installing it. So there are some extensions like that you will find where Microsoft already gave you some of that. So it's quite handy. So anyways, getting back to our original thing, when you run the set as your VM access extension, what it does in the back end is it does a bunch of things. One of those things is going and resetting your RDP the way it was, resetting it to its original configuration. So since we cannot RDP into our virtual machine any longer, as you can see, if I go and try to hit on this, it will keep initiating remote connection and it's going to fail because I disabled RDP. But now when we run this extension or run this commandlet through this extension, what it'll do is that it's fixing all of that. So let's run this. Do not forget that when we ran this commandlet last time, there were only two extensions. One was bginfo, another was Symantec, okay? So let's run this. I'm going to pause this and come back when it's done. Okay, that took a couple of minutes. Actually, less than a minute. But it seems like it's done, okay? So let's go and see. No, over here, I want to see what all extensions that I have. As you can see, it went, this commandlet, even though I did not install anything, it went and installed the VM access agent, okay? Version 1.1 point whatever. So this commandlet went and did that for us. We did not have to do anything like Symantec that we did. Could we have? Yes, absolutely we could have, but we didn't have to. Now, let's go and see if it originally fixed our problem. Connect, open. All right. So as you can see, it went and fixed our RDP configuration. And when we log into this virtual machine, if you go and refresh the property for that setting, you will see that it's already fixed. So let's cancel that. We kind of got away from here. You do not want to click OK because it'll break it again. Cancel that, and let's go and refresh this. As you can see, it will be enabled here. Yeah, remote desktop is enabled. So that's a pretty neat extension, VM Access extension that can do a bunch of stuff for you. Since we have a little bit of time, I'm going to show you something else as well. There's another thing you can do with VM Access extension that is if you are on a standalone virtual machine like we are, it's not on the domain, you can actually change the default username and password. So what if you have forgotten your username and password? If you did not forget, it's pretty easy. You come over here, you go to your computer management, and you'll find the account Sean and or admin or whatever you had created to fix that. But what happens if you have lost it or you do not know how to fix that? VM Access extension will actually allow you to fix that as well. I do not have the commandlet here, so let me actually do that for you. What we'll do is we'll take this information using scripts, as you can see. Set Azure. This is still going to be the commandlet. So I'm going to take that virtual machine. I'm going to pass this in there. This is one easy way of doing that. What you need to do is you need to give the new username and password. So the new username would be Sean because I'm going to keep it existing. And the password is going to be, oh, I do not know, 1335 USD something, whatever, complex, okay? And you do the update Azure VM, and that should be it. So if you do not put anything as parameters besides the VM over here, so you know what, just so it does not create any confusion, I'll show you how the previous commandlet could have been used. You could have done something like this. It's similar to what this one does, right? So if you do not pass any parameters, it goes and it it resets all the settings for your RDP and stuff like that. So if you broke your RDP, you can go. But if you go and overload, I mean, obviously this is a method overload, right? So if you go and put this parameter over there with the existing username and any password, what it will do is it will go and take that username and reset your password to the password you provide. So this is also a very handy commandlet to have when you have forgotten what your initial password was, okay? And as you can see, with this extension, it went and with this commandlet, it went and set up this extension like we mentioned before. So that's pretty neat. What do you do to uninstall extensions? Well, with uninstalling extensions, it's pretty much the same on how you install an extension, but so we'll use this one, set as your extension, as your VM extension. What you would have done is rather than completing over here, you'd go and do dash uninstall. So if we ran this commandlet right now, it will go and take the Symantec endpoint protection, or it will uninstall that extension for you. And this is similar for any extension. You can just use that to uninstall any extension, okay? Obviously, by the looks of it, you can see remove Azure VM extension. So, Microsoft provided an easy commandlet to remove the VM access agent from there. So that's how you do that. Once your extension is there, depending on your circumstances or situations, you probably do not want to like uninstall it. Like for Symantec Endpoint Protection, I would not uninstall it. So that's what it is. Okay. So that's the basic about extensions here. So the next extension that I'm going to discuss well, it will take a little bit of discussion here. Let's go and see all our available extensions here. And this will be something that's very, very handy for doing some more important things. There's one, and this is very important for your exams as well, by the way, guys. Custom script extension. So this basically is an extension that allows you to run custom scripts on your virtual machine. Obviously, some of you might think right away what you can use that for. So I'm creating a virtual machine. I want certain tasks to happen while the virtual machine is being created. For example, join it on a domain maybe, or I want it to go and do a bunch of stuff when I'm provisioning it. Okay, that's one reason you'll use this custom script extension to provision something. It could, like I mentioned, you can always have an extension run at any time, like we did with Symantec. Obviously, you can go and run a bunch of scripts on your virtual machines using this at any given time as well. Okay. But most importantly, and that's when I have used it mostly, is when I wanted a custom script to run when I'm already provisioning the virtual machine. Okay, so that's the main part. I have a small script here written called myscript1.ps1. This is on my on-premise. Okay, what this does is that it goes and creates a directory called temp directory on your C drive. And what it will do is that once it creates that temp drive, it goes and basically lists all the elements or lists all the items that are part of the C drive, and it stores that in temp folder under folderlist.txt. So basically it's showing you all the C drive contents of your virtual machine, okay? That's what this script does. I could run this normally on my computer and it will show you the same thing. It's a basic standalone script, okay? What I want to do is I want to create a virtual machine, and while creating that virtual machine, I want to run this script through the custom script extension when the virtual machine provisioning is done. That means once I go to the temp folder in my newly created virtual machine, which I will RDP for the first time in front of you guys, so you can see, you'll see there's already something called as folderlist.txt, and it's already it's showing all the contents of C drive. Okay, so let's go and do a couple of things before we can do that. To have this script run from your Azure subscription, you actually have to upload this script to Azure. So the only place you can upload this to is basically your, the store container here. So in my store container, as expected, I only have a VHD container. VHD's container, this is where my virtual file, the VHD for my virtual machine is stored. I want to store the script somewhere. So I'm going to create a new container here, or a new folder, basically. A container is basically a folder, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this container at this location. I just wanted to show you something. I clicked that a little too fast. This container has no blobs. Okay, let's go ahead and delete the script container here. There's nothing in there. I want to show you this part where I have scripts. I do not want to make the access private. I want to make this a public container. I know we have not gone through storages, but what will happen with a public container is that this container is accessible from the internet. So if you remember that you have this URL that you can go to, right? So your container is usually set private, so the entire world, for example, cannot just go to my VHDs because that will be such a big security flaw. But there are certain times when you want this container to be public, so other elements, other subscriptions, codes can actually access that. I'll show you why this matters, okay? But this is basically just a normal container. So the main thing that I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take this script and place it in this container where currently nothing is there. Okay, just because when I create a virtual machine, I want that virtual machine and that virtual machine, that custom script extension to be able to point to this script here. That's why this needs to be stored on your subscription. And the way you upload that to your store is, let me see this. I think it was set, yeah, it was set as your storage blob content. That is the commandlet that will upload it for you. You have to point it to a file. What is my file here? ctemp, right? ctemp my script one. So let's do this. ctemp, press tab real quick. Okay, my script one. Here you have to give the container name. So my container name is the scripts. So what I'm doing here is using this from my subscription. This is my Azure PowerShell console. Set Azure blob content as your storage blob content. So I'm saying that go to my blob content and store this there. This is the file. This is my on-premises script file. And go to my container scripts. Let's go ahead and run that. Won't take too long because the script file is just 1 KB, as I can see over here. It's just 1 KB. But it's doing a bunch of stuff to put there. Someone, when I was doing this earlier, someone actually mentioned that there are other tools apparently which can be used to connect to your storage account. So, feel free to use other tools to upload things, but I'll cover all of that in my storage session in the future. But for now, you have to remember that this is the only way you can upload anything on there. Ranger storage 001 was not found. Oops. I think what happened here is that it's holding on to a different storage account. Hang on here. Let me clear that up. Yeah, I think I was using a previous container. You remember that in our scripts, we used to have that little thing where it will set the current storage account. So let's actually do that. I don't think you will have this problem. I was using a different storage container. So earlier when I was trying something else, subscription name. What is my subscription name? I hate it when this happens, but you know what? It's good experience. Get Azure subscription. This should show me my name. Okay. So let's do a set Azure subscription. Subscription name. That will be this guy over here. Put that in quotes. Subscription. And this was the command, current storage account name. Okay, what is my current storage account name? Just Ranger Store, I believe. Ranger Store. Okay. Ranger Store. So that's my current. So as you can see, when I did get Azure subscription, my current storage name was Ranger Storage 01, something I had done before. But for this demonstration, I created Ranger Store. So let's go ahead and do get Azure subscription. And this time it should just show me Ranger Store. Okay, perfect. Okay, that's good. So let's go ahead and clear all this up and go run the exact thing we are running earlier. Okay, so get Azure, set Azure storage blob content. Let's go ahead and upload that. Should work this time. As you can see, it went. It's a very small file, like 1 KB or something. It went and it's successful, so it went to that. So if I go to Ranger Store right now, go to my containers here, go to my scripts, I should see my script there. Okay, there you go. My script 1.ps1. So we can see it's uploaded. So this is now accessible within my subscription. And I want to show you something over here. Is that you see this URL? You remember we made this container as public? So if you go to any browser right now, not even on a computer, anywhere, somewhere you're not even logged into Azure, if you go and do this, you'll find out that it can access, and it's trying to download this script right now. You see how cool is that? Because I made this container public. Any content of this container scripts is now public and people will be able to go there. Well, do not go to this link while you are viewing this video because chances are by the time you're watching this session, I'll probably already have deleted all this stuff. So you may not be able to access it, but do remember that this is how you can access elements in your storage account if it is a public container. And be very careful when you create a new storage container. You do not want this to be public. Because think about it, you have a virtual machine which is internal to your organization, and you make that container public, somebody will be able to download your VHD and pretty much get all the information on your, all the data from your VHD. I mean, that's a big security flaw. I mean, that's the kind of stuff you'll get fired from work from. So don't do that. But for this script, or there are situations where you want that to be public. And for example, with this script we did, so what happened was that it was accessible publicly. And I'll show you why I needed it to be public, okay? But our script is up there now. So let's go to a bigger script over here. I want to show you something. Like I mentioned, this is a basic script. That script is used for creating a virtual machine. This is no different from something we have not done before, okay? So I'm going to create a new cloud service called Ranger VM001, basic stuff, username, password. My store name is Ranger Store, so you have to make sure that you have the right information. Yeah, Ranger Store here. And what I'm doing is that I am going to go to Ranger Store, not over here, Ranger Store, and I'm just saying that this is where my script is located. This URL is the same URL that I got from here. Okay, this is the same URL. In fact, I'm going to copy this from here just in case I had any typos here. And I'm going to put this here. I'm saying this is where you can find my script, okay, under the script variable. And this is that what kind of makes your store default. I took this script from my previous one of those scripts where I actually go and create the storage account. I commented it because my storage account is already there. So I did not do anything there. This is where it makes the subscription actually makes the storage account the default stuff, the stuff that I did over here earlier, you remember? Where was that? This is what it's basically doing, making it the default subscription. I think this is going to fail. So let's do it this way. Basic stuff to create virtual machine. The only thing I want to show you over here is that under the new Azure VM config, I have a new commandlet there that's called set Azure VM custom script extension. Okay, so it's one of those extensions where Azure provided you the commandlet to install it. So custom script extension, and it takes a parameter file URI, and I'm saying that this is where it's located. So this is where the script is. And I'm also mentioning that when you are provisioning this virtual machine, go ahead and run myscript1.ps1, which is this guy, from that location. This is where you'll find him, and once you find him, run this. The reason there's a run script over here is that you could actually have multiple scripts. So you could have myscript1, myscript2, myscript3. All you would do is put a comma here and pretty much put all the scripts name here, okay? So you can actually run multiple scripts in a chain together while it's being installed. So once again, a couple of things to remember for both production and exam is that the way we are doing the custom script is through this commandlet, set Azure VM custom script extension. It requires a path from where it can actually take that script. So we uploaded the script here in a container, and this is how we access it. And we are telling that script, run it. Run it while you're provisioning this virtual machine. So obviously Ranger VM001 is not a virtual machine that we have here. Okay, so let's go ahead and run that. And what does this script do? Well, this script will basically just create the temp folder and take all the contents of the C drive. It's just basically list all the folders and store that in a folder list.txt. Okay, let's go ahead and do that. Obviously, it's a very trivial script. My script, you could do a bunch of stuff. Like this script could go right now install domain controller. It could probably go over there and download your entire SQL and probably do an unattended install of your entire SQL. I mean, you can do some serious powerful stuff with PowerShell scripts. You know that already from your on-premise experience or something like that. But now just imagine you can actually run a script while your virtual machine is being created. So let's waste no time. Let's go ahead and run this script. I'm hoping that there's going to be no error. Let's see. Okay, we'll fix it if anything comes through. Let's go ahead and run that. It'll take a little bit of time, as you recall. It's actually is trying to spin a new virtual machine. I'm not going to have this script online, guys. My script to create a PowerShell, create a virtual machine from a PowerShell script, it was there in one of my previous virtual machine sessions. Go take it from there. All you have to do is add this line over there. Okay, do not forget the pipe. Add this line over there and make sure obviously that you upload a script which does something trivial, and you need that location to put it over there. So basically you're adding this line and you are adding this much, and that should be good to go. Let's see what's happening here. Refresh this. It should be creating that new virtual machine. So at one point, still doing that. As you can see, Ranger VM001, it's deploying right now. So yeah, let's go ahead and deploy that. Once the virtual machine is ready, I'll be back. Yeah, still creating the virtual machine. We'll wait. I just wanted to unpause to show you guys it's running and provisioning. So what happens is that at this point, when the virtual machine is being created, what's happening in the background is that this provisioning is exactly when that whole extension thing is happening. It's running. This virtual machine is actually up. And provisioning means it's actually adding all this information. So extensions are run part of the provisioning part. So there is that BG info that's going on, and as well as our custom extension. This is probably happening sometime around now while the virtual machine is being created. Okay, so I just wanted to show you this status here, that at what point does it go and do that. It still takes a little while, so I'll pause that and come back when it's completely done. Yep, as you can see, it's installing the extensions now. All right, since it's running, everything should be done. So let's go ahead and try to connect to this. Oops. Okay. Okay, it's all loaded right now. So if everything worked out properly, we should be going to, wait how many times? C drive. Should see a temp folder. There you go. It went and listed everything that's there in the C drive. So it looks like we are successful. Okay, so as you can see, it created the temp folder here. And in the temp folder, it went and created that folder list, which has all the things, all the folders that's listed in C drive. And I did not do anything. It was all done by, let's go to packages. Obviously, we are going to see two extensions, right? The BG info, and this was a custom script extension. So we create the custom script extension. And if you go in there, downloads here, you could actually see it went and downloaded the script from, from where? From that storage account we had. So this is pretty nifty when it comes to actually doing something like that. Okay, so that's all it was. Okay, I think that sort of completes our custom extension over here. Let's go back to slides. Well, that's all there was to this session actually. So what did we do? We talked about agents, VM agents, where it's something that's used to deliver your extensions. Do remember that all the extension stuff that we did as part of demonstration today, the only reason they actually worked, or the only reason those extensions were able to get onto those virtual machine under those packages folder was because you had an agent that's installed part of the virtual machine, and it uses the agents to actually go and push those files from Azure. There's some way to push those or some need to push those files, right? So you go and do that. And then we talked about extensions. Extensions are nothing but something that is used to distribute softwares like BGInfo, Access. We even did a custom script extension where I sort of not installed but pushed a custom script that was uploaded to Azure and used that script to do a bunch of stuff while the virtual machine was being provisioned. So out of all this, I think the most important one, and the one I've been using lately quite a bit, is the custom script extension. So for example, if you have a lab, and in the lab, and you need a domain controller, you need a couple of virtual machines, and you need to make sure those virtual machines actually are joined on the domain while things are happening. Um, well, I actually use the custom script extension quite a bit to make all of that happen in a long script. So where I'll spin that, I'll run the I'll create the virtual machine, and it will go ahead and you know install the domain controller. Once everything is done, it will also spin other virtual machines and use the custom script extension to actually get them on the domain and things like that. It's a pretty neat thing to have, and I'm pretty sure you'll come up with really creative ways to use custom script extension to do things when the virtual machine is being provisioned. Okay. So that's all that was there to it. Some people might find the session pretty boring. I do find any custom scripting stuff very interesting. So for me, the custom script extension was very interesting. And you know what? It's part of your exam as well. So I hope you get something out of this. Anyways, as usual, our training site is cloudranger.net/Azure training. YouTube is at Cloud Ranger Network, Twitter, Cloud Ranger blog, where I tweet about different things about Azure. Um, it's a good place on the Twitter to actually also find out new information that's happening on Azure, because Azure keeps changing quite a bit. So I do follow, all the news, and I do post the stuff on there. Anything new that comes up or new feature that comes up, you can always email me at sean@cloudranger.net. Lately, I have been noticing that a lot of people are kind of getting used to coming to Yahoo comments and asking questions, which is perfect because that gives other people an opportunity to know about Azure, and that's the whole thing. All right. So that's it for today. So I will see you in the next session. Till then, take care.